Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. My name is Corey and this is actually the first video I'm filming for the channel. The goal behind this specific video is to really kind of give you a breakdown of the Civic. You know, there's a lot of history in this car and there's a lot of reasons why I chose to keep this car specifically versus selling it, and that's just one of those things that we'll get into later. Like any car that you're buying off of somebody else, it had problems, it was abused, so we're going to do a good, bad, and the ugly, but we're going to reverse it. We're going to start with the bad, the ugly, and then we're going to go to the good. Let's go ahead and get into it. The car itself is a 1997 Honda Civic EX Coupe. Not to be confused with its brother, the EM1 SI. It's essentially got all the bells and whistles of the SI, less the V16 engine, rear disc brakes, and chassis reinforcement. The interior is also kind of lacking, although this one is kind of clean. It does have its downfalls. You know, the steering wheel is pretty worn out and actually starting to chunk apart. The headliners and visors are pretty rough as well. They're tearing and hanging down pretty low. Carpeting is a little bit rough, a little bit dirty from just daily use over the years. But it's also got these weird pedals on it that look like they're AutoZone specials. Exterior wise, the paint is pretty faded, it's pretty rough, it's scratched, chipped in some places. It is definitely dinged and dented. The rear bumper is pretty heavily cracked. The front bumper is hanging off a little bit on the front left actually. I should probably fix that already. The front lip itself is also pretty janky. It's held on by hardware screws from what looked to be maybe Home Depot or Ace Hardware. I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. Typical to any Honda engine, it definitely leaks some oil.
What the fuck?
My most recent regret, I managed to scratch the front right wheel pretty heavily exiting my garage just a couple weeks ago, and pretty freaking bummed out about that. So it's obviously not the cleanest chassis you've ever seen, but it's the perfect project car. It's the perfect starting point for somebody like myself who's really trying to put it to use in a specific manner. Like I said, it's rough, it has a lot of miles. It's sitting right around 200,000 miles right now as it sits, and I don't know if the bushings have ever even been replaced in the car. I've owned it personally since like 160,000 miles, and I've put probably about, well, if it's at 200,000, I put about 40,000 miles on it. And in those 40,000 miles, I've done a little bit of upgrades, so it's not all bad. So as you saw in the previous shots, it does have some aftermarket wheels. They are raised gram lights. They are 15 by 8 plus 35 offset. Great wheels to put on this kind of car, especially if you plan to use it for the track. Very low unsprung weight. Behind the wheels, I have Progress Technology full coilovers running 550 pound spring rate on all four corners, and it gives me a lot of great feedback, but I definitely need to improve on that setup. In the engine bay is really where everything comes together. It's where I've spent most of my time so far with this car. Just kind of trying to get it where I want it to be today, and so far I'm pretty happy with it. The engine is a naturally aspirated LSVTEC with Brian Crower full valve train and stage 2 cams with upgraded lost motion assembly, ARP head studs, chromatic head gasket, half mil overbore V16 pistons with shot peened LS rods, ARP rod bolts, King race bearings, and a factory ground LS crank with a Moroso oil pan. The intake system consists of a Password JDM carbon Kevlar air intake with a no-name aftermarket intake manifold and a Bisimoto thermal intake manifold gasket. The exhaust system is a PLM 4-into-1 megaphone header system coupled to a 2.5-inch exhaust. I made a small custom Mishimoto catch can setup using some Dash 8 AN lines and fittings off the back of the block. In the fuel tank is a Walbro 255 fuel pump pushing full E85 to a set of 550cc Evo 10 injectors. Bolted to the engine block using some ARP fasteners is an ACT HD street clutch kit and a stock LS transmission that is soon to be replaced. What are you doing up here? Who do you think you are? Get down. So I was saying earlier, you know, this car has come a long way. I put a lot of work into it. I rescued it from a pretty rough situation. It was just parked in a driveway for who knows how long, slammed, completely slammed on the ground with some cheap no-name wheels that were literally hand painted. The engine was mixing coolant and oil all over the place because the head bolt holes were stripped out in the block, which I didn't find out until later, of course, because somehow the car started right up and ran perfectly. It's hard to find a car like this, even in the state that it was in. I knew it was worth it because it's a clean title, it's never been in any major accidents, you know, every panel matches, every single VIN number matches. It's kind of like a collector's item because cars like that are getting harder and harder to find, especially being that everybody wants to modify them, everybody wants to race them, and at this point, you know, this specific chassis is it's literally 23 years old. Mine specifically is 23 years old. So to me, it's kind of like a diamond in the rough. A little bit more work to put into it to really kind of get it where I want it, and I can't wait to get it there. I want to have fun with the car because it has been a long time since there was really something that I cared about and really that I put my heart and soul into to build from the ground up. I'm really looking forward to getting this car built, showcasing what I've done to it on the track, and documenting it all for you guys here on YouTube. I can confidently say that the best days are ahead for this car. You know, I really can't wait to share that with you guys. I can't wait to get it out there and have some fun with it. And as I said earlier in the video, you know, I have a lot of other ideas in mind for this car specifically, as well as the other vehicles that I own, which I will talk more about later. And I do kind of have some plans to bring other people's cars on as well to kind of showcase them and what we're going to be doing to those cars, so that I can continue to hopefully provide some interesting content for everybody here to watch. So I sincerely appreciate everybody taking the time to look at this video. I know it's been mostly me just chatty Cathy, but it's an intro video, so I hope that this gives you a good rundown of where I'm starting and where the channel's starting. In the future, you know, I hope that there'll be less of me talking and more of us wrenching and having fun. So yeah, thanks for tuning in. I'll catch you guys next time. Thanks.